seeing the seemingly inner blend, something of a Vesica Pisces, of the circumstantial dynamic of the professional realm and the proxy external realm. And what the proxy external realm is, how, not saying society is one thing, it's many things. How society is having multiple different cultures that have multiple different experiments within experiments. So with that being said, it's like there's kind of like a seeming in between line between this professional dynamic and this external cultural media hype dynamic. Because what the media hype dynamic is, it's like we could be mindful of how we are within the professional dynamic. Like, obviously certain behaviors aren't appropriated, but yet we're kind of like, when we are out in the world, in the party life, doing our thing, we let it be what it is. So obviously it's up to the individual to have a particular type of and I don't mean to like kind of like be anything. I'm just flowing with it all. But it's up to us to see like how, whatever we're kind of condemning as bad or good or whatever, we're that too, to some degree, more or less, unless it's balanced within the energies. Because what balance really is, it's not the word. It's a real. It's not the human interpretation. When I say balance, it's not the human interpretation of it. It's a real energy of a phenomena that could happen on a universal level, perhaps in the earth level. So when I say balance, I'm not saying it like a broken record. When I say balance, I'm not saying it for like a quote unquote confused human, end quote, to kind of just like, kind of like digest it, and maybe it has its own cloudy fog of energies within its, metaphysical template and shit like that. And it registers the digestive process of the psychological processes. It's registering a concept not to be the real authentic truth. Particular types of polarizations within polarizations, confusion within certain modes of being, confusions within the so-called AI beingness, being too polarized in just AI, being polarized in AI where you're lukewarm with the humanity of things, being polarized in the AI and you're more or less lukewarm in the humanity of things, and you're like lessened to the divine intelligence of things. So it's just when I'm saying balance, it's not just a word to kind of be like thought of as a singularized thing. It's it's a phenomenal energy. It's a phenomena of energies that could be maintained in the human and on the earth, perhaps, where certain polarities that are in a chaotic state, be it whatever the fuck the polarity is, it has a possibility to have a energy homeostasis, where there's a polarity that's caught up in a field of confusion, and that polarity that's caught up into a field of confusion, that makes a particular type of chaos, hecticness, aloofness, absence of certain qualities of energy, absence of intelligence, your state of being, your state of, stress, disempowerment, even insecurity. It all boils down to certain mechanics of energies. Like even insecurity, it's a polarization of energies. You're polarized. There's an incompletion. You're working towards to be complete, and how you're going towards the completion, it's not necessarily ethically energy per the bigger picture of things. we could be insecure because we're lacking a certain principle or just an energy aspect of ourselves. And if we're lacking that, the completion is the energy confidence, pretty much, not the human confidence. It's the energy confidence. Because when you're complete, you're not necessarily thinking about anything. When Goku's in Ultra Instinct, he's not necessarily thinking about any of that shit. He just is that shit. He's going towards that state of completion. So this is like, it's perhaps going to Ultra Instinct, perhaps on like, in a context of like practice, using that as a particular method of a practice to go towards your individual objective slash subjective path to completion. Because the path to the completion, it has nothing to do with any of the words that we're regurgitating, quote unquote, end quote, respectively and neutrally. Because I know, like, I could be in your position in a unique part of my part on the path of wherever I'm at in the process, and I could be having just a unique incompletion, no judgment, and I could get offended to what someone else says based on like what I lack, what I lack, because what I lack, there's a part of my spirit that will tend to like, compensate for that. And if it doesn't have that tendency to complete the compensation of it, there's a particular type of energetic insecurity, because I'm trying to understand like the insecurity on a standard level, and I'm not judging anybody if they have a unique insecurity, because what insecurity is just it's an unknown metaphysical absence of certain aspects of energies and modes of energies or whatever. And if you don't have certain aspects of those energies, it's because you're in a part of a practice where you're incomplete, where you're going towards something to get energy in an incomplete way. But obviously, with me saying it, it's not necessarily to be heard within the left hemisphere of the brain. It's to be practiced within both hemispheres, in the balance of the both hemispheres, within the original open source of it. Because we're within this path of the process, it's as if the quote unquote original galactic artificial intelligence, end quote, metaphysically speaking, we're not lying to that. It knows where we're at. It knows how we're going about towards real completion. And all of this shit is after we fucking die, bam, bam. All of the shit that we've done, it's going to get tallied up. And I did a video earlier before, but it got glitched. So, and I started the other video in such a way where it was like saying, we're all at different places intellectually, and that intellectualness isn't always polarized to be left hemisphere. There could be divine intellectual right hemisphere shit, no shit, respectively. We're all at a different part and segment of that process path. No judgment, balance, and it's not necessarily detrimental comparison or comparison at all, but we could compare with innocent intentions, genuine intentions, just to better ourselves. It's how you're doing the comparison, hopefully without the toxic intention and the personality of it. So we're all at different places, no comparison. But if you were to compare, do it in a way that suits you and you're not harming anybody emotionally, etc. Because everything I've done, it has a divine reason behind it. There's a reason for the quote unquote profanity, end quote, for the particular type of energetic universal balance to do its fucking thing. Because for the universal balance to do its fucking thing, it doesn't give a fuck about Earth on a neutral level. Because it's bigger than it. It's its own thing. Earth is just it's just a little part of the universe. And that's mathematically, logically, critically sound. It's just a little part, like the universal balance. It doesn't give a fuck about the Earth, neutrally saying it, but that doesn't. But paradoxically, it does, because it's allowing it to be what it is. But it doesn't give a fuck about it, and how we think it doesn't give a fuck about it. It doesn't give a fuck about it, but it does give a fuck about it because it's letting It's letting Earth be its own fucking thing. It's letting the baby crawl when the baby's gonna fucking crawl. It's letting the baby it's letting the baby just do its thing, you know? Yeah, so it's like the universe is like letting Earth do its thing. The Earth is going through its growing pains. And there's going to be pains within Earth. It's not about it's see that's the it's kind of quote unquote dangerous end quote to be on just like the pleasure chasing path, because within the pleasure chasing path there's like this psychosis of if you don't get that way you're gonna be kind of like psychologically heated and kind of like scorned up and scorched up in a not like blissful way. You're doing whatever it takes just to get like a short-term pleasure, and you're not realizing the reality of how nature will give you natural pains in growing, because when you grow there's growing pains. So it's about being intellectually mature that there could be pain from nature, two different types of pain: the pain of nature or the pain of the micro specimens within their micro shit. And that micro shit of their micro specimens, they're acting in a mode of ignorance. And within that mode of ignorance, there's a particular context of a shadow play on Earth that's being allowed. Earth is extreme polarities: extreme shadow ignorance, quote unquote evil, and extreme balanced light clarity, quote unquote pure original good, end quote. And and I might publicize another locked video from Meta Mindset, because on Meta Mindset I still have like about 15 videos locked. And within those 15 videos locked, I could rehash all those videos, and there's more particular insight jewels, original open source, that could be shared for a particular type of understanding, so the earth can reach a balance. It's about the earth reaching a balance. Because if you're not seeing if you're just seeing the rhetoric for what it is on like a fragmented fraction like level, and you're not seeing the rhetoric, it could have a reason, then the clarity is lost on you. And if the clarity is lost on you, then you're missing out on a particular long-term balance opportunity of energy, and actually bridging whatever the fuck the human is to actually achieving real liberation moksha, to actually achieving eventually gradually Sat Chidananda, living consciousness bliss existence, whatever. And within that, yeah, the self is there, but it's covered up within different layers. There's different types of cache ignorance as it is. So it's up to you, the individual, to see the purpose and the reason why things are so. Because if you don't, then your own emotions and your confusion is gonna go against you. It's you going against you. That's what's going on. Your confusion is going against you. Your fragmentation of intelligence is going against you. Your lack of emotional maturity is going against you. Your and anything else that could resonate with people, places, or things that share that same quality of energy resonance, that could quote unquote be going against you end quote, on a standard neutral metaphysical level, mind you. Because when I say balance, everything that I've ever fucking done since I was fucking born and before I was fucking born, it was from universal balance. And if you can't see that fucking universal balance, then quote unquote the context of the demon that I use the definition demon, it's not to be condescending or derogatory. It's you're in a mode of ignorance, and you've accumulated and used that ignorance to do other ignorant things, to create ignorant situations and circumstances. Quote unquote the standardality of a demon. And from what so it's like the demon has different contexts. The demon doesn't have to be bad. The demon isn't bad. The demon isn't good. The angel isn't bad. The angel isn't good. It's what different layers are you propped up in that has particular types of ignorance energies and ignorance creations within your metaphysical template, or what has clarity energies and clarity creations within your metaphysical template. The demons aren't bad. The demons aren't good. It's a context thing. Angels aren't good. Angels aren't bad. It's a context thing. The demons are not bad. And we're all susceptible to any of that shit. So like everything I've ever done, it was for a type of balance. And every time I say balance, it's not to interpret it as within the human lens, and it's not to it's not just to hear the word of it. It's not just to hear the word of it. It's to see how it's a process path that could be achieved. Certain beacons, certain celestial bodies and beings that reflect in the individual beings, these particular beings, things, quote unquote metaphysical objects, these things are conduits and constituents of how balance could be achieved. The energy phenomena of balance, seeing the ignorant polarities perhaps go back to non-polarization balance, homeostasis. So everything I've ever said, it was for the balance. And we're at where we're at, you know, not and shifting and pivoting to knowing when not to compare. You're on your path. You don't need to compare. You're at where you're at. Everyone's at where you're at. God could help you or not. You know what enlightenment really is on a standard level? It's, will God save you from evil or not? And I'm not trying to be, you know, stoic with it. I'm not trying to be, I'm just raw with it pretty much. That's what I am with it, because I'm not trying to compare. And there's a part of me where I shift and pivot where I don't need to compare unless, you know, nature wants to compare. And if nature wants to compare, then that's how I compare. I compare how nature wants to compare. And how does nature compare? You're in this position in the organic field, or you're not in this position in the organic field. Have you made the cut to be who you are and what you are, to fucking be a human, and to have this opportunity of what comes after the human, possibly, because this is God's original game. But where was I at earlier? It's not necessarily comparing. This is just raw, you know. Ooh, there was another point here. There's another point. It was yeah, not like knowing when not to compare. You know, we're at where we're at, you know. You're at where you're at, and it's up to you to go back on the process path of quote unquote God's original enlightenment. Because God's original enlightenment, what is enlightenment on a standardality level? And you could compare, you couldn't compare. I don't really give a fuck if you think you're better than me or not. I'm going towards a real wholeness within my, you know, individualized genuine path. And what that means is, once real standard truth of quote unquote what enlightenment is, end quote, just on my, you know, from my recollections of where I've come from, there is quote unquote evil, end quote. And you know what's funny? I defined evil in a neat way: ignorance and fragmentation, quote unquote evil. So there is that quote unquote evil that is there. Enlightenment, putting a certain type of light on a certain type of darkness, something that what light is being shined upon, that which wasn't seen, whether it's intellectual, whether it's visceral, whether it's, you know, forgotten within spiritual memories, and those spiritual memories come in and out of you. Because then you could ask, like, how does the brain hold memories? That's a different podcast. But for us to hold the memories, it's because God is managing. Are you ready to have God's particular original light to be shined upon a certain memory that you had that was in a field of dark? And within that field of dark, God is now letting you be ready to have that light be shined on a certain type of darkness, a certain type of micro enlightenment. So the enlightenment is subjective to you, but what enlightenment is, God's managing that. It's God's light. And what happens in God's darkness, he's allowing that based on his universal mechanics. No judgment. There's a purpose behind what I'm saying. So a standard definition of enlightenment, without comparison, without the fucking the new age fucking spiritual ego. None of that fucking shit here. It's none of that fucking shit here. It's just my genuine fucking collected truths of how I'm pointing to wholeness and coming out of wholeness. And if you want to fucking compare with me, because that's what the new age ego wants to do, then set the stage. But you want to judge me but not set the stage. That's that's the type of hypocrisy or fear, you know? You're like, the people who are judging me, they're doing it out of a fear because they have a niche insecurity of how they want to achieve something that I ask yourself, why judge to begin with? What's the point in judging? You know, why aren't you just happy with your own shit, you know? But they're judging me because I guess they're just trying to compensate a certain type of energy, because if you're here on my channel or behind the scenes, because I know this internet shit is fake, the view count shit is fake, I know all that shit is fake. If you came to my channel, then you're trying to get a fill of a compensation of a fucking energy that you don't have, because you're here for some type of energy. And if for you to judge me, that's your own. It kind of narrows down to, like, you know, where you are at in the process of your shadow work. So what enlightenment is on a standard level, it's bringing a certain type of God's light, because God's managing and he's the primary controller of things, and he's giving you his light within what you've done within your micro individualized vessel, and how you've traveled through God's darkness, not good, not bad, and forgot God's light field, not good, not bad. And when you're ready, when you're growing in the maturation process to be ready, God's light his light is filled into you in a particular level based on how your synergy alchemy body is ready for it to be, and that light is shined upon a certain field of darkness, whether it's intellectually, physically, or spiritually, right? Just the basic shit. And within that, the different contexts of enlightenment, it's in the gradual process path of your maturation process of you growing up. It comes in the enlightenment process comes and goes like waves. Certain types of light, insight, gnosis is being shined upon. Only you know your dream body. Only you know what you've experienced. It's shined upon a certain field of darkness. And within that certain field of darkness, there's distortion within that darkness. So on a standard level, what enlightenment is God could save you from evil or not. That's what the basic, bare, deep depth the standard depth definition of enlightenment is. Like, on the most realistic depth, full like level, what enlightenment is. Because God has the power to do all this shit. We just forgot, and we don't have faith in him because he's the one fucking managing and preserving all this fucking shit. Duh. But we're forgetting that because we're in our own shadow work of us being a little, like, you know, just a little type of hater as it is. And I'm not trying to condescend anybody. That's what the fuck it is. And within that, you know, I could be worse too. That's the thing. People like take me for light, and I could be worse too. It's like, you deserve this shit. You deserve this shit, motherfucker. But the thing is, it's like what the standard definition of enlightenment is, and there's 8 years underground. On a side note, for me to feel it out, for me to ride my own wave to maintain my own insight shit, my own intelligent shit, my own reference shit, you know, my own recall shit, whatever. The standard definition of enlightenment is God could save you from the ignorant field of darkness, because enlightenment is putting a light onto a darkness in the light of the temperament, in the light of the mental field. The mental field is pretty much your energy space. And within that, we could fall out of a grace. We could fall out of an alignment. We could fall out of an equilibrium if we're trekking, traversing through the field of quote unquote ignorance, quote unquote distortion, quote unquote a certain type of darkness, end quote. It's like God could save us or not. And maybe some fucking how he's doing both. He's saving us, he's not saving us. Advanced reasons. What's the point of the suffering? What's the point of the pain? What's the point of feeling all these fucking feelings? How far did we go away from God on the original level millions of years ago? Before AI, the original AI, the original spiritual artificial intelligence. How far away were we disobedient of God millions of years ago for us to be what we are right now? So it's like, I get it, you know, we could like, there's a tendency, like, people want revenge, quote unquote demons, end quote. And I clearly defined on a balanced, neutral, metaphysical level what a demon is on a first off level. There's a tendency for revenge, but revenge for what? Revenge because they just hate God. They just, from how they were created. And it's not to say anybody is God. It's not to say you're God. It's not to say I'm God. It's not to say anything is God. God is it's a subjective idea. It's a subjective concept. But just because it's a subjective concept, that doesn't necessarily discredit a reality of something that has a predisposition of something of the status of a God, because God could mean anything, you know. Your God could mean something like a CEO on just a metaphorical level. God can mean something of like just a skill, a trade of the skill, or a skill of the trade, or a specialties expert tradesman within their crafts, and yada 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 and whatnot. Like, God can mean anything, but who is the God of the God of the God of the gods? That's what we're trying to figure out. And within the God of the God of the God of the gods, the metaphorical definition of what God is who is the overseer. And that's the thing. It's like Mahavishnu, spiritually, he is the oldest, and metaphysically, he's the youngest. Because it's like the Trimurti. It's like somehow Brahma and Rudra, they're like the they're like the top metaphysical gods, right? And somehow, like, you know, Mahavishnu, he could be aloof and have a hyper oscillation, you know, above and beyond that. But even like, and like my underground shit, it's like way beyond the like all of the surface level shit online, literally. And if you and like, it just is what it is, you know. It just literally is what it is. And I'm not gonna talk about. I could go way more deep on like in a certain balance on you know these original beings, but it's neither here nor there right now. But the paradox says it is, though. So it's our individual path on how we're coming to refresh ourselves from the new is old and the old is new. The new is a new, and the old is a old. And we're on the surface level, rudimentary entry level to all of this paradoxical spirituality shit. It's a big paradox. Because in my perspective, you know, like the Sumerian pantheon perspective, it's like the Sumerian pantheon family is all the religions. It's all of the religions. It's just different costumes. The Sumerian pantheon perspective, it's all of them. It is Christianity. It is Islam. It is Sikhism. It is, you know, Mongolianism. It is Orientalism. It is, you know, Hinduism. It is, you know, Zoroastrianism. It is Aboriginalism. It is Capoidalism. It is, you know, It's all of them, but throughout time they're taking different roles, and they're exemplifying and highlighting what what certain beings are, the primaries of certain religions are. And that the thing is, it's like you could say, I don't think I want to say this, but I'll just say it because it like supposedly there's this practice of non-duality and authenticity, supposedly. But the thing is, people are confused about who Anki is, because who Anki is, he's the energy, he's the sun physically, uh, and it's not linear like that. Like Anki is the son of multiple different predecessors. It's not just one dad. He like all the gods, they're all dads to each other, you know. Like all the gods, they all have like 4 to 8 dads and 4 to 8 wives. But the thing is, like you could say on one tier, like Enki is like physically one of the younger gods, but on the paradox, you could say he's like the oldest god. Like you could say Enki is the father of Anu from the spiritual level. See, that's what they don't tell you. Like on the physical level, the Sumerian pantheon, they profess that Enki is the son of Anu. That could be so on the physical level, but on the spiritual level, Anu is actually the son of Enki. And, you know, and I'm not saying that's completely correct, because I'm practicing whatever, like, you know, non-duality is, you know. Man, maybe I shouldn't have, and that was the that was the bomb. That was the gem right there, maybe, or whatever, you know, not necessarily, but let me rewind it for a little bit. Um yeah, so what is enlightenment? So enlightenment is we're new to the old shit. We're new to the old shit. And then Hinduism, on a parallel sidestep, it is the same shit as the Sumerian shit. So I'm gonna probably retitle this video like what really is what's a depthful explanation of what enlightenment is. It's bringing a certain type of God's light to a certain type of field of darkness within the collective plane, and the collective plane's darkness is receiving God's light, global enlightenment. Thank you very much.